Hi, women. My name's Karma, and welcome back to season 3 of the Free Birthing in Color movement. This is a space to hear the stories of women of color and Indigenous women sharing their experiences of living, working, and birthing in their power. If you feel like you have a story to share and would like to have your words and your voice amplified within this movement, please reach out to me. All information about submitting your story can be found within the show notes below or on the Free Birthing in Color Instagram page. The Instagram handle is at freebirthing_in color. Just send me a DM or find the submission forms within the profile. I look forward to hearing from you and making space for your experiences to be witnessed. And now I'm extremely grateful to have shared time and energy with our next guest. Here is her story. Hello, Hadhee, and welcome to the Free Birthing in Color movement. I am very grateful to have this conversation with you and to hear the beautiful work that you're doing for the Feminine Collective. So yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, no worries. The first question I would love to ask you is, what is your ancestry and your lineage that you carry within your body?
Yeah, so I'm from a country called the Maldives, which is some people pronounce it the Maldives, but
Mm,
we actually say Maldives. It's a group of islands off the west coast of India,
mm.
and there's over 1,000 islands, tiny, tiny islands, and yeah, that's where I come from. My lineage is completely based there. Both my parents are from there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. I love this because as we were just briefly speaking before we started recording, you said how nice it is that we can connect from different parts of the world. And yeah,
Mm.
hearing that you're from the Maldives is I'm starting to collect all of the different places that women are from who share on this podcast.
Mm.
And yeah, it's just becoming more vast and more beautiful. And it just makes me so happy to hear these stories of women from the Maldives, women from places in Africa, women from, South America, women from India. And yeah, it's just so, so cool for me to start putting these really beautiful glowing lights of all of these amazing women that are around the world. So the Maldives is just another one that's on there.
Yeah, I think it really speaks to how this is a collective movement, within women. It's just spontaneous. It's like that 100th monkey,
Mhm.
what's it called? 100th monkey experiment that they did. And, they found that once a certain group of the population learns something, it kind of spreads.
Ah, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Reach
know.
that tipping point, and
Yeah.
yeah, just everywhere just spontaneously starts doing the same thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
So with that being said, I'm very excited to hear about all of the work that you do. So the next question I'd love to ask you is, what is the work that you do in this world for the Feminine Collective?
So I'm an Ayurvedic postpartum doula and also a traditional birth keeper. So I support women mainly through postpartum at the moment. I
Mm.
don't attend births because I've got a little baby that
Mm.
won't let me leave in the middle of the night, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I'm actually, as far as I know, I'm actually the only doula from the Maldives. Um, because yeah, birth is just in the completely in the medical realm over there. I'm based in Australia at the moment,
Okay.
why I've gone down this path of learning how to support women. I think we just froze up a little bit again.
Yeah, there we go. Sorry. If you just want to say that again, I caught I'm living in Australia and then you cut out.
Yeah, no, I'm currently living in Australia and I've been living here for about 15 years or so.
Mm.
And all my babies were born here.
Mm.
And that's probably what set me on this journey, because if I had been in the Maldives, I may not have taken this path. Mm.
Okay, okay. So that leads me then into the next question of what led you to doing this work. So then that was the birth of your children.
Mm. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. So with I had three home births. I've
Mm,
got three boys.
mm,
And with my first baby, I had this really amazing, completely physiological birth. There was no interventions. My midwife was a traditional midwife, so
mm,
she didn't intervene at all, really. And I was
mm.
begging for her to do something, but she was kind of like, "You're doing great." But that allowed me just to have this real amazing spontaneous birth where I really connected with the that amazing primal power that comes through women.
Mhm,
And that just made me fall in love with all things about birth. And I just wanted to support women. So I started studying to be a doula.
mhm.
And then I had another baby, and that was also a home birth, but I had a really different experience that time because
Okay.
with my first baby, I hired a private midwife
Mm,
for that. So she obviously wasn't um, beholden to all the hospital policies and protocols that the other midwives that came to my second birth were, because they
okay.
were from the hospital's home birth program. So
Right.
yeah, so even though, like, it's a funny thing because people often talk about home births being really amazing and beautiful and all that, but it's sometimes,
Mm,
it's that both experiences were like chalk and cheese, basically. And as soon
okay.
as they came in, and as soon as they entered the space, my birth slowed down, and
Mm,
it was like there was a lot of hands-on stuff which I wasn't happy to be a part of, but in the end they ended up coercing me into taking the syntocinon injection, and um, I spent the first 3 hours of my first three golden hours completely nauseous and
mm,
crying, and I just did not know how to
mhm,
feel.
mhm,
And that kind of left me really kind of shattered by that experience because it wasn't what I was going for with my home birth. So
mhm.
when I became pregnant with my third child, I decided to um, I'd made up my mind from the beginning that I was going to free birth.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was still really scared, so I did engage the hospital again. Just I wasn't going to call them until after the
Mhm,
baby was born.
mhm.
Um, but that was another interesting experience because that was after all the COVID stuff happened, and
Yeah.
so the policies had changed again, and they were even more hands-on. And because by this time I had already been studying to be a postpartum doula,
Mhm.
so I was a little bit more savvy
Yeah.
with what I wanted, and I actually made a birth plan, and I engaged an Ayurvedic doula as well, who lives really close to me, and we were doing the same course together. So
Mm,
I asked her to attend the birth, so I felt fairly confident that I didn't really need the midwives, but I just had them on hand as a
mhm,
backup kind of thing
mhm,
until I spoke with my midwife about what I wanted for my birth plan. And she looked at it and she read it and she was like, okay, well, this is interesting. And then she went back, she left the meeting, and then she rang me afterwards and she said, look, I can't support you
mm.
in what you want.
Wow.
Best if you don't call me at all because I can't let you birth undisturbed. We have these new rules. We have to like monitor you, put the Doppler on you every 5 minutes, and you know. So I was just like, well, why am I doing this? Why do I even need these people?
Mhm,
Because in my mind, I felt like it was kind of the last little block of fear that was remaining in me towards free birth.
mhm,
And yeah, so I rang her back and I said, look, I just want to discharge myself from the system. I'm going to, yeah, just find my own way with this. And
yeah.
so she said, okay, that's fine. And so I had completely like cut myself loose.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really scary.
Yeah.
Mm. And
I'm
mm,
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, I've heard this a few times of women, stating what they want in their birth plan and having a very reasonable birth plan. I don't want excess this, I don't want cervical checks, I don't want Doppler, whatever, whatever. And then
mhm.
having midwives come back and say, this isn't reasonable. I had a woman that I was speaking to who had a birth plan, which sounds kind of similar to yours. She didn't want any intervention and all of this stuff. And the
Mm.
midwife said to her that she was being selfish for wanting to have a birth that was undisturbed without the midwife using Doppler on her. And it's
Wow.
just crazy to me that this is the norm. And some, like
Yeah.
yourself and this other woman that I know, you both stood in your power and said like, nope, okay, I'm taking myself out of your care then. But there's other women that hear that
Mm.
and then, get constricted and then think, okay, well, I guess I have to do this if I want to have, kind of the birth that I thought I was going to get. It's just so sad to hear that this is the normal, quote unquote, normal
Yeah.
experience that so many women deal with.
Yeah, and it's really sad because I was really like inspired to free birth by a lot of other women around me who were doing it, but I
Mm,
still had so much fear and resistance
mhm,
towards it. So, but I guess I just felt like because with my second baby, I actually had the midwife that was in charge of looking after me was the woman who was responsible for bringing home birthing to the hospital system here in South Australia. So she was the OG. Like
okay.
she had instigated those programs in the hospital.
Right.
And she told me at the time, she was like, we're losing everything. We're losing birth, the
Mm,
policies are getting worse. And over here, the insurance policies have become really strict. So
mm.
it's forced a lot of independent midwives out of practice.
Yeah.
Mm. So it's just really sad because, it's the birth is about the woman, it's not about the people
Hmm.
who have to tick the boxes. And
Totally.
yeah, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So I'm curious then, because of the experience of your first birth, you said the woman that you
Mm,
worked with was very hands off. You had a very beautiful birthing experience. And then the second one was completely opposite of that. So,
mm.
with all of that being said, between birth one and birth two specifically, and then birth two to birth three, what were those postpartum experiences like for you? Especially because in birth two, you had the synthetic oxytocin under or in a way that you did not want, but in that first birth, it sounds so beautiful and just so free. So, what did you kind of notice between that first baby's postpartum time to number two's postpartum time?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So with birth one, I didn't actually know any, even with birth two, I didn't know anything really about postpartum.
Okay.
So I was like up and about after having my first baby. I was up and about and trying to do things, going out of the
Mm,
house within a week, 2 weeks. I was like,
mm,
going out and things like that. So
mhm.
I actually did end up going to really dark space with my first birth, even though I'd
Okay.
had that beautiful birth experience.
Mhm.
But that birth experience actually held me a lot through that dark time because I
Okay.
remember quite a few times, it would come up and I just think, if I can give birth to a baby, I can get through this, because
Mm,
yeah, some of those um yeah, it was just really an unpleasant kind of experience, the postpartum, because my hormones were all over the place and I didn't know how to manage them the way that I know now and what
right.
was needed for my body and my mind to recover.
Mhm.
And with my second birth, yeah, postpartum was really hard. I was really well supported though that time.
Mm,
So I had lots of people coming over and bringing us food and, um, it was really like it was a very, very well supported postpartum, but still, I did end up having a hemorrhage at
Oh,
4 weeks after the
oh,
birth.
wow.
And I've read that that's one of the side effects of the Sinto can be postpartum hemorrhage, and
Hmm.
it can happen much later. So I was trying to do too much again with that.
Right. Okay.
I just didn't know at the
Hmm.
time.
Right.
Mm.
Okay. So then you said between the second and the third birth is when you started getting into the Ayurvedic postpartum care work. So then did that shift drastically how you had your third postpartum time? Yeah.
Yes, that was like a whole other world, hey. It was
Mm-hmm.
incredible because I got the opportunity to actually apply the things that I was learning to myself.
Hmm.
And I think like nothing accelerates your learning like that, you
Hmm.
know? And because I'd asked my friend who was doing the same course as me to come, and she was a big part of my entire birth journey as well. I mean, pregnancy journey as well. So she was
Mm.
supporting me through that. But I made all the medicines for myself. I got
Mm.
everything ready, so it was a really beautiful experience. And I knew exactly how to look after myself. Not that, a woman should be looking after herself after birth, but I
Hmm.
knew what my body needed
Yeah.
in order to recover. And that postpartum was actually like, because I remember speaking to a friend of mine in the Maldives, and she was, like every week we would speak, and she just looked at me and she was like, I have never seen anyone recover this fast. I have never
Mm.
seen anyone do so well.
Yeah.
So she was like, you have to bring this to our country. You have to teach women what it is that you've done for
Right.
yourself. You know?
Okay.
That was the inspiration for what I do at the moment. So,
Right.
but the interesting thing about that third birth was my doula actually didn't turn up. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I had disengaged from the system and decided to step into free birth in full
Hmm.
power.
Hmm.
And then my doula didn't show up. So, yeah, that was really, really harrowing. It was
Yeah.
a really intense, intense experience.
Wow.
But it was, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you think, oh, it was really incredible and amazing, but also really awful at the
Hmm.
same time. I
Okay.
don't know how to, they're both present in equal measure, because I did end up transferring to the hospital because sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional.
Mm.
Um, my placenta wouldn't birth,
Mm.
so I ended
Okay.
up getting really scared because
Mm.
I was already, yeah, not in the best space. But yeah, it's really hard to unravel the story, to
Hmm.
communicate both things, because the most incredible aspect of that birth was my ancestors came in and
Mm.
supported,
Wow.
because I didn't have anyone. I was calling my doula, I was calling her until I couldn't use the phone anymore,
Yeah.
and my husband was around, but he didn't really know what I needed.
Yeah.
But he was trying his best to support me, but I was so deep in the space, and I just wanted someone to like rub me, read
Mm.
my back, and hang to me basically. And just not having that. And that's when my grandmother's spirit came in, and she
Oh.
said, like, I heard her inside my being. And she said so clearly, I'm your midwife now. And she
Oh.
just helped me, like, yeah, it was
Wow.
so, so powerful. And
Oh my God.
she just guided me. And at one point, I wasn't like, we did have another friend come, because we were calling, trying to get through to people, and one person was able to come and support me.
Mm.
And as soon as she walked in, basically a few minutes before or few, like just shortly before the baby was born. And I remember my grandmother saying, he's coming. And then at that moment, there was the fetal ejection reflex happened, and the baby
Mm.
just shot out.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was just like going, he's coming, because I was so scared that they wouldn't catch him because
Hmm.
it felt like chaos.
Yeah.
And my friend said she watched the baby come through, and like they weren't able to actually get in and catch him, but the back of my legs caught him. I was on
Oh.
my hands and knees, and she was like, it was amazing. He just like rolled out and rolled
Aw.
into your legs. And it was like, I just like did this maneuver and I was holding him straight away. And the sack, she said she saw the sack, it was around him and it just popped and rolled
Um,
up into this little, like, almost like the thickness of the umbilical cord. She was like, I've
wow.
never seen anything as magical as that.
Oh my gosh. No, I've never heard of anything like that, having the sack just beautifully curl upon itself. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That sounds so amazing. And I got teary when I just heard you say that your grandmother's spirit came through and was there for
Yeah.
you and said that she's your midwife. Like, oh, the power of birth and the power of being in that space is it's so magical. That just like makes my heart feel this.
I know. It's just
I
so
can't believe it. It's so beautiful. Wow. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's so wonderful.
yeah.
Oh, goodness me. I'll have to hear the entirety of your birth stories one day because now I'm like, oh, I want to hear them. I want to hear all three of them.
It's birth is so magical. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love this work so much, and
Yeah.
I just want to see other women. That's what breaks my heart, when women in my country are so separate from the true magic of birth.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't have anyone, that I didn't have the support that I needed, it came. And even though I ended up in the hospital, I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm still here. I'm still standing here for sovereign
Yeah.
physiological birth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Absolutely.
because it took me a long time to process that experience, because I
Mm-hmm.
felt like a failure for a really long time
Oh,
because
okay.
we transferred to the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to go into the operating theater, and because so
Um,
they could take the placenta out. But what I noticed that was interesting about that experience and my second birth as well, because I had a similar thing with the second birth where my placenta didn't come in the required time frame, which is why they gave me the injection.
mm-hmm.
They give you 30 minutes and then they call the
Right.
ambulance, and then they give. So I had no choice. If I wanted to stay home and with my baby, I had to take the injection.
Mm.
But
Okay.
with my very first birth, with the traditional midwife who had all her skills behind her, it just really shows
Yeah.
that the skill level of midwives have been going down.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as I birthed the baby, she was like right in there. She had been so hands off, but as soon as the baby was born and he had had his first feed, and I stood up, she was like, all right, let's get your placenta out. And she was hands on, and she massaged my womb, and it basically allowed for that to happen really quickly so I could just get into the bed. And,
Mm.
you know, um, but with the second one, they didn't even touch me,
Okay.
even though my placenta wasn't coming out. They didn't even touch me. They didn't try. I tried squatting in all these different positions, but there was no like understanding of how to assist with that
Right.
process.
Right. They just
And
went
then with
straight
the
to the
third,
drugs.
yeah, yeah, straight to the drug, straight to the injection. With my third birth, because I was in the hospital, again, there was no like manual, they were just so hands off. They kept giving me more oxytocin, like to try and get the placenta out. Then they put me on an oxytocin drip.
Oh, wow.
So I had to ask them after everything was finished. They still had me on the drip, and I had to actually ask them to remove it.
Oh,
And then
wow.
they didn't want to remove it either. They were like, "You have to run your course." And I was like, "If you take this out, I can start producing the real thing, you know?"
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just so crazy.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Mm.
Yeah,
But then
that's
I spoke with my best friend in the Maldives after that last birth experience, and her mother is a traditional Maldivian midwife
mm,
who used to practice back in the day.
hmm
And she heard my birth story and she was just like, "Oh, if I had been there, I would have just done this and done that, and the placenta would just flopped out, you know?"
right.
And I was just like, wow, like I want to learn that,
Yeah.
you know? It's just, where did that go?
Yeah.
Like, how is it that we don't have that level of confidence and knowledge in the birth experience to say, I can handle this? You know,
hmm
that's what a true midwife is there for. She holds the space. And then if you need any assistance, she knows exactly what to do because she
Yeah.
has the skills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it
Mm,
is really sad that a lot of that has been lost. It's been lost because it's been stolen from the women and it's been,
yeah.
legalized and all of these. We all know what's happened with, women in our history and the true midwives and the true female healers and yeah, and it's
Mm,
really sad to see. I also spoke to a woman and we were speaking about the traditional midwives in Hawaii and how they are losing their independence to practice without licensure, and how the state of Hawaii is trying to knock all of that out. And the traditional Hawaiian indigenous midwives are worried that they're going to lose their skills and they're not going to be able to pass this down to their children and their grandchildren because everyone is now, getting coerced or
mm,
convinced, however you want to say it, to birth in hospital and to birth in these medical ways and these really
mm,
beautiful, indigenous, gentle practices are starting to be lost. So it's really
mm,
sad, that it's happening not just in Hawaii, but in the Maldives and in many all across the world. All of the indigenous practices for
mm,
pregnancy, birth, and postpartum are disappearing. And we need to hold these. We need to hold these. Like this is what our generations, the next generations count on is mothers and women being able to birth their babies in their power. Because if that
mm.
does not happen, our whole entire world is just going to go into a place that's much worse than where we are right now,
Absolutely.
which is so heartbreaking. But
Mm,
with that being said, I want to ask you because I'm curious, because I know, when any woman that gets into birth work or gets into postpartum care work, it's just kind of there's the track of birth work that you can do, there's the track of postpartum work that you can do. But how is it that you chose to go into the very specific niche of the Ayurvedic postpartum
mm,
work? Because that's not something that's um, it's not something that's very, kind of quote unquote mainstream postpartum doula work. And I think it's fabulous. I think everyone should know at least a little bit of Ayurvedic tradition, whether
mm,
it's just in their general life or when doing birth work and working with women. So I'm curious how you got into that part of
mm.
your postpartum work.
Yeah, so between baby number 2 and 3, I actually supported a friend of mine in her birth,
Mm.
and she had a home birth as well. And yes, with the same group of midwives that I had birthed with, and I witnessed the same kind of, hands-on, all that thing going on, which wasn't fantastic. She was amazing. And I just wanted to learn how to support her postpartum. And then just this ad came up about Ayurvedic postpartum care. And
Mm.
this really gorgeous woman, who is now my teacher,
Mm.
um, was talking about Ayurvedic postpartum care. And she had this 5-day immersion, like an email course. So I joined that
Mm.
basically the day after I'd been to this birth,
Okay.
because I believe it was completely divine timing because I just put it out there. I don't know anything about postpartum. I
Mm.
want to learn. And, she just like came through.
Yeah.
And yeah, everything she was saying in that just blew my mind completely because in Ayurvedic traditions, how a woman is healed in those first 42 days after birth will affect her for the next 42 years of her life.
Mm.
So that just like completely boggled my mind. And I just, yeah, so that I started the course and I've finished and I've graduated now. So I'm serving women here in Australia
Mm.
with that. But it was really interesting because I was in the doing all these things in the course because the course is actually so holistic. As an Ayurvedic doula, you get taught how to do, not just how to cook food because there's a whole like protocol around eating
Mhm.
because the belief is that the Agni, the digestive fire, goes out at the moment of birth, which is
Okay.
like a big deal.
Mhm.
So in Ayurveda, everything's based around your digestion and how that powers the whole body, basically.
Mhm.
So to have it actually, go out like that it's really crazy. So then we get taught how to support the woman to reignite and rekindle it in the right
Mm.
way so that she can process her food without it creating toxins in her body and stagnation and things that just won't benefit because it will set up the next 40 years basically. It's the foundation that is
Mhm.
being laid. So I was learning how to do all the cooking. I was learning how to do um, like herbalized oils for
Mm.
massage. So there's every day in traditional Ayurvedic postpartum care, a woman is massaged every single day of her postpartum.
Yeah.
Isn't that incredible?
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah.
I cried when I heard that. I was like, why don't we have this? It's just like, why isn't this the normal?
Yeah.
Just to treat the woman like she really deserves to be nurtured and
Mhm.
nourished and, like a newborn.
Yeah.
That's the only way the baby is going to thrive. Otherwise, all the problems that the mother has
Mhm.
trying to struggle to get back on her feet, or, the bounce back culture and all that will be passed on to the baby's nervous system.
Yeah.
Mm.
Wow.
And it was, yeah, so I learned all those things. And every time I would talk with my mother and I would say, oh, I'm doing like we're learning how to make panchakola ghee, which is the traditional five spiced ghee that you give a woman as soon as she's given birth. You basically just shove a spoonful of ghee in her mouth with all
I
these
love
spices and
that.
pepper and like immediately take this right now to light your, digestive fire. And my mom was like, wow, that's what we used to do. And I
Mm.
was like, "Really?" And then I said, "Oh, and I'm learning how to make these oils because the oils are made in a very specific traditional way where you have a water phase and a oil phase, and then the water gets cooked off, which
Mm.
is not how that's not the Western method of herbalizing oil.
Right.
So I told my mom about that, and she said that was what the midwives were doing in our culture. That's how,
Mm.
because my family actually in the Maldives has a tradition of like traditional indigenous medicine in our family. So my
Mhm.
mom had picked up a lot of ways that they used to make things and make medicines and how they used to treat, different conditions just from being
Mm.
around people who were doing that. And
Right.
she was just like really amazed. She was like, that's what we do. So I just realized, because I hadn't even made the connection that Ayurveda is actually our traditional medicine system. The
Right.
roots are all in Ayurveda. We're so close to India.
Yeah.
We just have a localized version. So it just came full circle for me.
Oh, I love
And I
that.
realized that, yeah, this is really lineage work.
Mhm.
And now what I'm doing is I'm trying to gather as much wisdom and knowledge from the traditional midwives that are still alive in our country
Mhm.
so that we can preserve that and we can create our own teachings for
Mm.
what we do in the Maldives, how we do things.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so special. That's so beautiful. Yeah, I love hearing that you are forging that path to keep your indigenous traditions
Mm.
alive. And I love that it's the full circle that you are in the Ayurvedic postpartum work coming from the Maldives. Yeah, because it just makes so
Mm.
much sense that this would be something that, your body, your soul was gravitated towards because it's already in there in your body,
Yeah.
even though you didn't quite realize it. Yeah, it's
Mm.
so beautiful to know that you're doing this work and through that. So do you want to speak a little bit more to how you are collecting this knowledge from your country and using that to keep these traditions alive in the Maldives?
Yeah, so we that what you were saying about the Hawaiian midwifery. So our country is a little bit further along
Mm,
the line with that. Basically in the year 2000, traditional midwifery was completely phased out.
mm,
So they standardized midwifery
right.
care, and obviously, the traditional midwives were not able to meet the standards that were being set in the medical system because
Mm,
everything they knew was through their lineage.
yeah.
And yeah, so they couldn't really sit the tests and meet the requirements. So most of them, pretty much all of them, got completely phased out of practice.
Oh,
And that was the year 2000, so going on 20 years now. We
yeah.
haven't had any traditional midwifery in practice.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
no one to support any home births. All births take place in hospital in the Maldives, unless they're free births, which are very rare.
Right.
And it's really incredible to me that it takes a single generation because for us to lose
Mm-hmm.
all of that,
Yeah.
because nowadays most women are there's the C-section rates like over 40% that we
Mm-hmm.
know of.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's elective, some of it's emergency,
Right.
obviously, but it's they're just so in the medical system. Birth is a medical event,
Mm.
and they're not receiving the right support either to breastfeed. That's the
Yeah.
other follow, and there's no postpartum care at all.
Mm-hmm.
When in the past, the traditional midwives, even if they hadn't attended the birth of that woman, they would just come to the house and they would look after the woman
Yeah.
for those, weeks after birth and make sure she was all good. And that's what happened with my mother because she gave birth to me in a hospital. But then when she was at home, she received support from a traditional midwife who came to the house and made her sit on, hot papaya leaves to heal her perineum and,
Oh.
helped her milk to come in because she'd had a really stressful hospital birth experience. So milk didn't come in for a while.
Okay. Yeah.
And it was this midwife who came and what she did that actually got that flowing. But
Mm-hmm.
I just think, I may never have been breastfed if we didn't have a traditional midwife who actually
Yeah.
came and made that possible for her.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
Um,
those skills that are so necessary, right? Like I
mm,
never would have thought sitting on hot papaya leaves would be beneficial for healing the perineum and also helping the milk flow come through after a stressful situation. And it's that information that only comes from passed down knowledge. Like nobody's going to learn that in a book. It's only going to
mm,
be taught through experiencing and witnessing it. And that's why it's so
absolutely.
special and so potent.
Mm. And like, when you look at it from the perspective that, not only did we lose the support of the midwives during birth and labor,
Mm,
but all the postpartum care, which was a really rich tradition, that disappears with the midwives, with their
mhm,
skills. They're not just there for the birth, they're not just, they're there for the entire 40
yeah,
days afterwards as well.
yeah,
And uh, the people that I speak to, because I started a page on Instagram at my friends, she encouraged me um, to bring this knowledge to the women of the Maldives. And
mm,
she's the one whose mum is a traditional midwife. So she was saying that basically all the women that I've spoken to as well on the page were basically saying in the past, once a woman gave birth, she was treated like a queen. She
Mm,
didn't have to leave the bed
yeah.
for those entire 3 months. They would make sure, like, I mean, it sounds really extreme, but it would have been very extreme, because it was all in the realm of those traditional midwives. They would just come in and they were
Yeah.
there,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and that's what makes me feel like this work is just so massive,
Yeah.
because there's all these midwives there. They are on the verge of, passing into, a lot of them are
Mm-hmm.
very elderly. Like my friend's mom, she's elderly, and
Mm-hmm.
my friend keeps saying to me, "We have to write this down. We have to collect this knowledge because it's actually,
Yeah.
it's like a puff of smoke. If you don't,
Yeah.
it'll just disappear, you
Yeah.
know?"
Once she goes, if she doesn't share those stories, then there's not going to be a way to get it
Yeah,
back, which is, yeah,
yeah.
is so, so incredibly sad and
Mm,
beautiful to know that there was a time where, like you said, these mothers, these new mothers were treated like queens, and there were all of these midwives and women coming in, tending to her, taking care of her, making sure that the only time she got up onto her feet was to run to the bathroom quickly. Well, maybe not run, but walk to the
yes,
bathroom quickly and then, get back into bed, and there'd be warm soup or a massage waiting for her, or,
yeah.
something like that. And it's so sad to see the state of mothers now after they've had their babies. They're home alone. They have nobody that really cares about them. It's all about the baby. Nobody's really, maybe they have a week of support from the whole family, and then it's just kind of like they're forgotten, when it really
Yeah.
needs to be like these women are literally bringing in the next generation of humans. We need to support these mothers so that we can
Mm,
have strong, independent, loving, kind, caring, um, boys and girls that are going to grow up to these beautiful women and men of the earth. And yeah, it's just so sad to hear of that's not the norm, that mothers don't most of the time feel like a queen lying in bed with their baby being fed and massaged and touched in these really beautiful, gentle ways.
yeah. It's really sad. And just, I just imagine a world where we could bring that back,
Hmm.
so that we can create women, like mothers can go into their motherhood journey feeling resilient.
Hmm.
They don't have to feel like they're struggling all the time. If they
Hmm.
are properly supported, they will come through postpartum strong.
Yeah.
They will be able to give, their cup will be full, because
Hmm.
the act of giving birth, it just completely empties everything. It's so, so
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um, yeah, that's so true. It is such a expansive experience that the woman needs to be brought back together with food, with rest, with body work, with love, with oxytocin, all of the
Mhm.
things. And with that being said, I'm curious what other, because you talked to the food piece that you learned how to make these traditional dishes to feed
Mm.
mothers. Um, you talked about the oils that you were making so that you could massage the women and give them these body works. What other points of learning did you get from this training that you now do as you work with women?
Yeah, so it's huge. So
Mm,
there's 4 pillars of
mm,
Ayurvedic postpartum care. So the first one is obviously rest. That's like the most important pillar. The next one is diet. So we learn the specific foods right down to, day 1 to 10. This is what you feed a woman. Um, and week 3 to week 6, this is what she can digest now. So right down to which weeks, like, she can digest what, basically. And then there's also the pillar of herbs. So we get taught how to use herbs to help her. Like, it's all customized depending on what her needs are, but how to bring in these beautiful Ayurvedic herbs like Brahmi, Gotukola. We use rose a lot. There's yeah, it's just so many different herbs that come together, and they're delivered in so many different forms. So, we'll
Mm-hmm.
put it in the ghee, we'll put it in the massage oil, you put it on the food, or you'll take it as a tea. There's like a 10 root formula that you give to the woman, pretty much for the entire 40 days as well. So there's like all these like different herbal formulations that come into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the body work aspect. So there's belly binding as well as
Yeah.
daily massage or abhyanga. Um, Belly binding is really incredible after birth, because I
Mm-hmm.
did it pretty much for the entire 40 days, and I still do it occasionally now.
Okay.
Um, it just like it's just so amazing. The level of support that you feel from the belly bind is incredible, because like, and this is a story I often tell my clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I had my belly wrapped was after my first baby was born, and it was my mother who wrapped me. So
Oh,
yeah, she came over. I think it was day 3. She came over, and that was the first thing she did. She saw the baby, obviously, and then she just grabbed a scarf and she said, "I
yeah.
have to wrap your belly now." And I was
Oh,
like, "Okay." And as soon as she wrapped my belly, like, I had felt like this like bag of bones
yeah.
before, so unstable. Everything was just like moving in ways it shouldn't be moving. And as soon as she wrapped me, I was just like, wow, that's like such a huge difference.
Yeah.
And then I didn't practice it seriously until my third baby, because I'd learned the Ayurvedic postpartum care.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've actually been reintroducing to the Maldives, is belly wrapping, because that was one of
Okay.
our traditional practices as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had such good feedback from women over there, saying, because my friend in the Maldives, she sells the belly wraps
Okay. Yeah.
to women over there, and I make the womb oil and I send it over, and I make teas and
Mm.
she sells it over there.
Oh, I love
And
that.
it's beautiful feedback from women saying, this has been such a game changer for their postpartum.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just, yeah, it's really amazing what a piece of fabric can do for the body.
Totally. And I feel like having those things, those traditions come through with just, simply belly binding, simply making the oils and sending it over. It's like awakening that remembrance in women, it's
Yeah.
so powerful. It seems like such a small thing. Let's just bind the belly, let's just kind of contain the mother, but it's so
Mm,
powerful. It awakens this remembrance. So I feel like
yeah.
that's why it is so well received, because then it's like, oh yeah, we are meant to have all of this just automatically after we've given birth. We are meant to be feeling this way, treated this way, respected in this way. So
Mm,
yeah, it's powerful work that you're doing, Hadhee, and I'm so grateful that you're doing this and you're bringing back this resurgence of this traditional care for women. It's
thank
so
you.
important. It's so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, I really like, I can't do anything else now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we've actually been speaking to a few. I've, I've had a few women come forward and say, "Oh, my aunt's a traditional midwife. She's or was a traditional midwife. Here's her phone number. You can call her.
Mm-hmm.
All this." So I'm in the process of planning a documentary, because
Yay.
yeah, I feel like the story needs to be told about what's happened in our country, and
Yep.
for it to make sense, for
Yep.
women to actually go, right, how can we change things? So, and
Mm-hmm.
also to create a resource for women so they can learn from these midwives who are still there.
Yeah.
They're still there. This is the
Mm-hmm.
incredible thing. And a lot of women will dismiss, this is just a generalization, obviously not all women,
Mm-hmm.
but there's this general sense of, oh, the older generation don't know anything.
Mm.
They don't have anything to teach us.
Right.
So what I want to do is change that perception with, creating some content around traditional midwifery, so we can actually preserve the traditions and then pass them on to the next generation
Yeah.
of women.
Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. Oh my goodness. That's so exciting. I'm so happy to hear you say that you want to create this into a documentary so that it can
mm,
be shared and seen far and wide, and so that it can bring that awareness to the people in the Maldives and everyone around the world that these traditions need to be saved. These traditions are super important, and we need to be listening to our wise elders and not listening to the government. We need to be taking our care from the traditional healers of where we live, where we're from, because they are the ones that hold the true knowledge, and that's who we need to
mm.
be learning from.
Yes, yeah. And I have this, like, my vision is for the Maldives to become leaders in postpartum care,
Oh, yes.
because we have such a rich tradition. If we can just go back and,
Mhm.
you know, contain it in some form, we
Mhm.
can, there's so much there.
Yeah.
And I would love for my country to actually lead the way instead
Mhm.
of, bowing to whatever it is the overlords of the day have to say. But
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've got the passion, and it's lovely that you have your friend that is still there and you can, do that connection back and forth. Um, and I'm curious because you said South Australia?
Mhm.
You're in? Yeah,
That's
you're in
right.
South Australia. So are you also, like, I know you have this project now working with the Maldives, but are you also working with many families within South Australia? Are you kind of teaching the knowledge that you know, or are you just working with families kind of on the one-off instance when a family hires you, or how are you getting this information out in South Australia?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just starting out, so I'm working
Okay.
one to one with families.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just want to get um more experienced with
Hmm.
working with families and
Yeah.
mothers, supporting mothers. So, and every time it's just been so beautiful, like
Hmm.
just to be invited and
Yeah.
to get to go into that sacred space. I get emotional and thinking about it. You go in there, there's like little tiny newborn hands and feet, and
Yeah.
the mother's so exhausted, and I get to go in and I get to nourish her, I get to wrap her
Mm.
belly, I get to bring her food, and I just love it so much.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
everything that I wanted for myself that I
Yeah.
actually didn't. It's not that I didn't receive it after the birth of my third baby, because my doula, who was meant to be at the birth, was also meant to look after me postpartum, but she
Okay.
kind of kept not showing up for me.
Oh
And
gosh, no.
yeah, so I ended up having to do everything for myself, and I got my husband involved, and he was cooking all the foods. And lucky
Yes.
I knew what to do, and I'd made all the ghee and the oils, and everything was already set,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, so I ended up kind of having to learn the hard way how to do it for myself. But
Mm.
that was also a real gift and a real blessing. I can only thank her now, even though I'm still processing how I feel about that
Yeah.
experience. But
Mm-hmm.
I can really have to thank her for making that, like, that made me really much more resilient,
Yeah.
and more passionate towards supporting other women, because now if someone calls me, I'm just like, I have to go, I have to be there.
Yeah.
I have this like really intense drive to do
Mm-hmm.
it. But yeah, so it's all a part of that processing of that experience, I think,
Right.
emotionally.
Yeah. And
If
how
I
long?
can't be there, it's just like I get really, it really affects me emotionally
Okay.
if I can't actually make it to a mother when she wants me to come. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, because your heart's so in it. Yeah. And how long do you work with the families when they hire you on? Do you have like a set amount of days, or do you just kind of go with the flow?
At the moment, I'm going with the flow, so
Yeah.
I'm just going for one-off visits at the moment, because
Okay.
even here in Australia, postpartum care isn't really very
Mhm.
well known.
Yeah.
So people just think it means you go into the house, you help with the laundry and wash the dishes. That's kind of
Yeah.
what postpartum care is defined as, or you bring them food. But
Mm-hmm.
like when you go into the Ayurvedic aspect of it, it's actually, actually physically, it goes so deep. It's like you're
Mm-hmm.
actually soul retrieval kind of level. You're
Mm-hmm.
helping the mother really come back together, as you said.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's a very holistic, and because there's not much of an understanding about how holistic it needs to be, I'm still kind of um working on that. But
Mm.
in the program, I can support a woman for the entire 6 weeks. I can go
Yeah.
there, 2 or 3 times a week, and
Mm.
take her food and give her a massage, and all of that. That's how it's meant to be for the entire 6 weeks. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but even 3 days in a row of Ayurvedic postpartum care makes such a difference,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
as
I bet.
opposed to having one here, one there, then, and like never picking up the belly wrap or again after you do it once,
Yeah.
so it's all about consistency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. I would, yeah, I would love to be supported by you in this way because you're just so passionate and you can just see that this is your heart's work when you're speaking to it. And I can just only imagine how devoted you are to the women and the mothers that you're caring for. And it's such a lovely thing. It's such a beautiful thing to witness in you and in other women that have such a deep devotion to woman,
Mm,
a deep devotion to womanhood, to mothers, to babies and children. Because
mm,
there are some women that are in this line of birth work, whether it's postpartum or pregnancy or experiencing the actual birth portal, that don't have the depth of understanding of how really truly important this work
mm,
is and how the mother must be centered in order for her to be exalted in the experiences she's having.
mm,
So it's so beautiful to see that in you and that you're just like you're on it, you're in it, and yeah, the work that you do and that you're wanting to do, and you're just putting such a beautiful ripple in
mm,
this world, such a beautiful ripple into this frequency of bringing this type of care that women and mothers deserve and should be reminded that this is what they deserve to have in
mm.
after their birthing time. So yeah, I'm just so proud to hear that. That's what you do.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm also starting to open up to working online with women as well, because um, I've kind of I'm learning that there's actually a lot of women in the online space who are seeking
Mm,
this kind of support, even if they've given birth, like 10 years ago. Because, like, my understanding is that if you haven't had that support in the postpartum or even during birth in particular, it kind of extends that postpartum past
mm,
40 days, and you can still recover your strength, you can still access your resilience, because a lot of women end up, 10 years later so depleted
yeah.
still, so drained.
Hmm.
And it is completely possible to reweave yourself as a mother
Hmm.
through these practices, no matter when you gave birth. It's just about being willing to go. So I start with working with the birth story,
Hmm.
so I'm holding a birth story medicine circle in a few weeks,
Mm,
in the online space, so we can start just with that first experience or whatever experience that is, because
yeah.
of multiple births, obviously, but um, just so that you can go back into that space and recreate yourself and reform that relationship, with yourself. Because
Hmm.
often that's what happens when we get depleted. We lose sight of ourselves. We end up so far away from who we are because we're constantly having to meet the needs of others,
Yeah.
as
Hmm.
mothers. So yeah, so I'm in the process of um, wanting to work with women online to teach them the Ayurvedic practices and, just other things that I've learned along the way as well.
Mhm.
to, yeah, reconnect and
Yeah.
create more resilient and, teach mothers how to nourish themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That's so wonderful.
Mhm.
Um, I want to ask you, is there anything else that you'd like to share about the work that you do with women and mothers before we kind of wrap up this conversation? It's so beautiful. I don't want to end, but I also want to like get as much from you as I can.
Um, yeah, I think just I don't know, it's like we're really in a pivotal moment in history
Hmm.
from my perspective, because what I see around the world is women, it's a real grassroots
Hmm.
movement, and we were speaking about that earlier, about how it's just incredible that women can connect with each other from any part of the world now.
Hmm.
And because this resurgence that's happening, and it's not a religious thing, it's just a deeply spiritual
Hmm.
resurgence that's happening,
Yeah.
because it's a spiritual experience, motherhood.
Hmm.
And it's just so inspiring to me to see, so many women just coming to it spontaneously.
Yeah.
It's just, for me, it's just like I just have to, like, go, wow, it's the great mother in form,
Yeah.
really manifesting on the earth at the moment. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Hadhee, for spending this time and speaking about this work. Because I keep saying it's so important, it's so beautiful, it's awakening the remembrance in women so that these next generations of beings will be different and will have a new way of understanding life and themselves, and women will be in their power. And it's just so important. Like you're doing your heart's work, you're doing your soul's work, and it's so wonderful to witness that. So thank you so much for being here and speaking about all of this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, women, for listening to this latest episode of the Free Birthing in Color movement. If you want to continue supporting this movement and all that comes with it, please give a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Like the videos on YouTube and share this episode with some of your friends. As reciprocity for the work that I'm doing and the content that I'm creating, it only takes 2 minutes to show your support through a 5-star rating, a small written review, and a share. If you want to give a monetary donation to help with the back end costs of keeping everything that is happening within this movement going, you can send your donations through PayPal via the link in the show notes. And again, as reciprocity for the work that I'm doing and creating, I'm so grateful when those donations come through. All information can be found within the show notes below. I'll see you in the next episode.